Welcome, everyone, to day 4 of IAMHR. If any of you have joined us over the past few days, you may notice something a little bit different. JD is not here today. Instead, we replaced him with JT. And no, I'm not talking about Justin Timberlake. This is Jen Thomas. She's a member of our content team. Jen, excited to have you on for day 4 of IAMHR. Are you happy to be here?
I am. Yeah, this is very exciting to be on the other end of things.
Awesome. Well, Jen, I know you missed the first couple of days, not that you weren't watching at home, but we covered almost everything in talent experience. We covered candidate experience on day 1. We heard from Thermo Fisher on day 1, we heard from Johnsonville. Day 2, we covered the employee experience. We heard from Newell Brands. We heard from Southwest Quadient analyst Ben Eubanks. And yesterday, we covered RX. It was a heavy prescription of recruiter experience. And we talked with Thermo Fisher Scientific as well as KinderCare Education, covering lots and lots of great content. If you missed any of those sessions, I highly recommend you go back and replay them. And if you're joining us on LinkedIn or YouTube, you can always register for the event and view any of them on demand. So it's at our website, phenom.com. You'll see a nice little banner at the top. You can register, view these perhaps this evening when you're enjoying a glass of wine, maybe over the weekend if your football team like mine isn't doing too well, but lots and lots of great content over the past 3 days. However, it's day 4. We're here for the present. Jen, what are we covering today on day 4?
Hey, everyone. It's exciting to be here, especially to wrap up day 4 of IAMHR. Today, we're going to talk all about manager experience. So we've got 3 great customer sessions today. Crystal Stanfield from the MITRE Corporation is going to be talking all about how they're using their secret weapon for proactive talent pipelining and hiring manager engagement. We've got Sarah Keaty from Resource Solutions. She's going to be giving super actionable tips to improve communication among hiring managers, recruiters, and candidates to make sure that you get that right fit. And then Jem Bombardier from Radian Group will weigh in on what it takes to turn into a talent advisor and really why that's so important today. Of course, we've got a couple of Phenom-led sessions. So first up, we're going to kick it off with Kumar, our Executive Director of Product and one of our AI gurus. He's going to dive deep into designing the hiring manager experience from the ground up and all of the tech tools you need to make that happen. So let's see what Kumar has to say.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of IAMHR 2021. My name is Kumar Anantanarayana. I'm the Executive Director of Product Management here at Phenom People. And I'm super excited to be here today to talk about a key persona, the hiring manager in the ecosystem. And what I wanted to cover today is about designing the experience for a hiring manager. And let's dive right into it. When you think about hiring manager, hiring is a key aspect to this manager persona. And hiring involves a key few individuals. Obviously, there's the job seeker or the candidate who's a part of the equation, and the recruiter who front-ends these candidates before presenting them to a hiring manager. And the hiring manager is a key persona as a part of the whole hiring process. But the hiring managers don't think hiring is the number one priority. And hiring managers are all usually looking at a lot of responsibilities on their plate to deliver business outcomes. They have all those day jobs that they need to look after first. They have employees that they need to grow and develop. They're often analyzing the teams, planning for the growth and reviewing work of the teams. And that's typically what managers are really involved with. But when it comes to hiring managers are often expected to help HR in a wide variety of ways. It could start with identifying an ideal candidate for a job, or determining what skills are important for that job description so that the TA teams can forward the right candidates to the hiring manager. It could also be with setting up screening questions to help screen out candidates faster, or providing quick feedback on interviews and hiring decisions. And yet, the whole hiring process is centered around the hiring manager, but the hiring manager doesn't have enough time to really set a lot of these expectations from an HR perspective. And oftentimes, because of this, there's an information loss that's happening between the hiring teams and the talent acquisition teams. And this is translating directly into productivity losses for the company. Oftentimes, not so great candidates get in front of hiring teams. They end up interviewing these candidates and lose a bunch of time and probably not have enough time to deliver on business outcomes. So we thought it's very important to create a streamlined experience for these managers and the teams to help in the talent acquisition process. So how can the HR world really empower hiring managers to be able to help them very effectively and efficiently in the hiring process, while making sure that they don't take up a lot of cycles from these managers from delivering business outcomes and growth? And when you think about some of the ways in which certain HR teams have adopted certain strategies, it could be as simple as creating a platform for hiring managers to start with defining the requirements of the job. So the rec gets opened, and before it is really out there and getting candidates apply to those, can hiring managers advise on talent and really define who the ideal candidate is? What skills are they looking for? What's their location preferences? What type of screening questions need to be asked to candidates to screen them out? And things like that. It's really important to really create a framework or a tool for hiring managers to use to define this accurately. It's also important to deliver a platform to hiring managers that allow them to take quick actions in a very seamless way. So think about a mobile app experience. A candidate that is forwarded to a hiring manager can be viewed on a mobile app, and a hiring manager can just say a thumbs up or a thumbs down to proceed for an interview. How cool would that experience be? Also think about video interviewing, for example. Instead of having a phone screen with a hiring manager before the hiring manager opens it up to the entire interview panel, can that be substituted with an on-demand video kind of a platform where hiring managers can record their questions, candidates can answer, and hiring managers can just look at those videos and rate them before making those decisions? And it's also very important to build platforms that facilitate continuous collaboration between hiring managers, not just between different hiring managers making a decision on the candidate, but also collaboration between hiring managers and the talent acquisition teams. So what's the end goal here? Obviously, HR can take a bunch of steps to empower hiring managers to operate in a much more efficient fashion. But it's not just about improving metrics. It's really about bringing productivity back to even managers and really designing an excellent experience for managers to work closely with talent acquisition and really scale from that perspective. But an important thing to note, with this productivity boost, what can HR teams expect back in return? And if you think about a hiring manager has a huge responsibility of growing, nurturing, and retaining teams and employees who work in that team. So if you think about enabling hiring managers to identify skills and impact of skill gap, that becomes a critical piece for hiring managers as they look to scale the organization. Sometimes it's hard to say that this path needs to be taken. For example, if a hiring manager or a manager is trying to grow an employee and recommends a path, sometimes those paths may not align with the aspirations of the employee. So how do you facilitate that conversation with the employees from a growth perspective? How can we give a design or an experience to a hiring manager to empower these managers to grow their employees in a very effective way is very important. We also often think about competencies, right? So we have skills that will really help candidates fit a specific job. And we have competencies that really help employees grow their careers and define career paths. And oftentimes, from an HR perspective, these competencies and career paths and enterprise frameworks are not very well defined. And there's often need for hiring managers to also participate in that equation and really help build a competency framework for the team, help build a competency framework for their adjacent teams, and really build a solid foundation for the entire company to grow. And this really empowers hiring managers to not just look at hiring external talent, but empowers them to look at internal employees who are looking to grow. So today, managers don't really have a good visibility into who others in the organization wants to grow into their team and have set that role as their career path. And it's important for HR to design experiences for hiring managers or managers to really have that level of visibility to help grow employees within the organization. So things that HR can consider when building this framework, obviously it's important to encourage managers to understand that they're not losing talent. And it's important to build a feedback loop that gives managers the opportunity to share employee goals and make sure that career paths come to life within the organization. And there are tons of ways to do that to foster employee growth through internal mobility, gigs, recommendation, and learning platforms that can all be really driven from a manager to help grow an employee within the organization. So in short, to summarize this session, it's important to empower your hiring managers or managers in this whole equation to help grow your company. That empowerment can happen through technology, through AI-powered insights, automation, and really eliminating some of the manual tasks that happen between teams. Secondly, it's important to design that manager experience that supports both hiring, collaboration, and employee growth. So think of an Uber-like an experience where managers can really take those quick actions and make those quick decisions without having to be trained in a very easy and seamless experience product. Finally, it's important to embrace the culture shift and move your hiring managers or managers into to work closely with the HR teams. That's a quick intro of the session that's going to follow today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We have a lot of exciting speakers and very interesting topics that are going to follow. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kumar. I really enjoyed hearing from you. We here at Phenom refer to Kumar as Kumar A, and the A stands for AI. And that was one of the key points that he mentioned there, is how vital hiring managers are in providing feedback and helping enhance artificial intelligence. It's one of the things we talked about yesterday, is that AI isn't something that you can just set and forget. It's not a switch on your wall. It's not Alexa. It's far more than that. You have to provide feedback in order for it to be effective. But it does help streamline the process between recruiters and hiring managers. It's a lot like running with the wind at your back, as opposed to running uphill into wind when things are all out of sorts. Notes are held one place, resumes are held another place. You really need recruiters on the same page in order to be effective. He also talked about the incorporation of video and how much that will help out hiring managers and recruiters so that you can interact with your candidates without having to schedule yet another Zoom meeting. But you can kind of have that feedback back and forth. And he also mentioned what the end goal is at all of it. And it's just being productive. The importance of getting them both on the same page is that productivity that you can get back in your day. Jen, did you have any key takeaways from this session?
I think one of my favorite things was really about that loss of information that can happen between hiring managers and recruiters. There's so much information. There's resumes. In some cases, there's writing samples. How do you keep that all streamlined in one place? Yeah. Because if you don't, there's a lot of back and forth and it's a lot of wasted time, which all boils down to productivity. Mm-hmm. So I think that was my favorite takeaway for sure.
Awesome. Well, that was Kumar's session. Jen, who do we have up next?
So next up, we've got Crystal Stanfield from the MITRE Corporation. Super excited to hear how her team is tackling talent pipelining and engagement to fill some of the nation's most niche positions. A lot of the roles that they hire for require top clearances, very special skill sets. So how are they getting their sourcers and hiring managers on the same page? I really have no idea how, so tune in and you'll find out.
Hello, my name is Crystal Stanfield. I'm the Director of Talent Planning and Acquisition at MITRE. Today, we're going to be talking about our secret weapon for proactive talent pipelining and hiring manager engagement. If after this session you would like to get in touch with me with any questions or ideas, I'm happy to bounce those ideas around with you. I can be reached at any of these channels here on the slide. So a little bit about MITRE. We are a non-for-profit organization that really solves problems for a safer world. What that means is we operate 7 federally funded research and development centers, and they range from cybersecurity, healthcare, aviation, defense, and even enterprise transformation. Essentially, we're working for a safer, healthier, and more secure nation and world. We were founded back in 1958. We have about 9,000 employees across 60 sites. So with that said, this year we filled 1,335 external hires. Our fiscal year ends at the end of September, and so that, it is about the end of our year. You can see here our source per hire. We have about 39% being directly sourced. Although we do have job postings and great employee referrals, as well as marketing, paid marketing happening, really the bulk of our hires come from sourcing. So what is our secret weapon? 3 things: skills, sourcing, and engagement, all around collaboration. We collaborate together on these 3 areas, helping us to really arm the talent advisor with the right information to go after the right candidate. One of my favorite quotes is Michael Jordan: talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. And that is true in the case with Phenom. When we look at the AI in Phenom and the collaboration with our hiring managers, it really is a perfect recipe for success. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how we collaborate. So let's talk about collaborative sourcing. We do a lot of screen sharing. I feel like that is a best practice in terms of how we kick off a search and our ongoing refinement of a search. We will screen share for searching our own database. In terms of looking at profiles, we screen share through that process. We create Boolean strings on our sourcing tools, and we screen share through that process. We have regular cadence of meetings to sync up on what candidates look great and what refinement we need to do in the sourcing strategy. We really like to look at market insight. In some cases, the candidates that we're seeking are in low supply in a particular market. And so that insight helps us refine our search. Can this role sit in another location where there's more supply? We have those conversations. We also talk about the analytics on the job postings and marketing and any other sourcing efforts that we have for particular requisition. And we encourage an iterative process. things change. The world we live in changes every day. So as a result of that, we really do like to understand that sometimes midstream things can change, and being okay with that, because sometimes it's that change, that pivot, that really helps us narrow in on the right candidate. So when we talk about refining requisition skills, we do this in Phenom. We take a look at the job description and the skills criteria, and really focus in on what we're searching for. So really paying attention to the algorithm in terms of what skills it's pulling out of the job description, and are those the right skills? Are there redundancy in those skills? And making sure that we really eliminate the redundancy. In some cases, it could say data science, data mining, big data, and really all of those three things kind of mean the same thing. But there are particular skills that we can hone in on, like Python or Pandas, and really get in there to get the more accurate result. And so we do this process with our hiring managers, and we have them provide us with ideal candidates. Sometimes we know who those are from previous searches, and we just load those in there as well. And then in terms of the leads that we do get from the AI, we review those together. We really help train the algorithm to know that they are accurate. This is a good candidate for this role by clicking on the thumbs up. And then sometimes, it's not accurate, and we want to make sure that it learns. So we put the thumbs down button. And then in terms of searching our own database, we spend a lot of time in the advanced search mode. When we went live with Phenom, we loaded in thousands of candidates from our Workday system. And from there, we really gained the power of really owning our talent community in a way that we didn't have before. So knowing that we can search on really anything to help pull the right candidates out of our talent community is really powerful. So you can see here that we refined a search from down to 134, but seeing that you have 65 total applicants, that means they've already applied, they've already engaged with our brand, but there's still so much opportunity with the other 60. So really getting in there and knowing what we have, it really is helping us recycle, if you will, some of the candidates and applicants from the past that were already engaged with the MITRE brand. And last, sharing data. I know I said this earlier, but the more they know, the more they can help us. And so I have found that when we share data, the hiring managers really like to know what we do. They like to see a source, and they like to see the data because it helps them understand how they can help us. And really, it's a win-win if they can help us. So sharing as much data as possible is always important. And then last, I just would like to say that, we have a future roadmap too. We've come a long way. We implemented Workday, then we implemented Phenom, and we helped really shape the philosophy of how we partner with our hiring managers. But we're going to further that journey by implementing the hiring manager module, which will allow them to have a portal to assist in the skills refinement and really give us their feedback on leads that we've sourced. And then additionally, really maximizing our employee referrals. By implementing an employee referral portal, where we're going to be able to give them the same candidate experience that external candidates are getting in terms of our employees referring people that they know. So with that, I will say thank you for your time today. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Crystal. That was awesome. If there's one thing that you stressed a tremendous amount, it was all about collaboration. And with over 1,300 hires in a quarter and 39% of them being directly sourced, that means they're not coming to you looking for a job. Your team is out there hunting for the right candidates. It makes sense why collaboration is key there. We all know the old saying, Jen, 2 heads are better than 1. But when you have a team working together, it's almost unstoppable. And one of the things that I also wanted to call out is AI is a huge teammate on their team, right? And they include AI in their meetings when they're evaluating candidates. They're training it to be better, whether it be cloud-based suggestions or simply candidates who are applying to jobs that aren't the right fit for them or they're not qualified for yet, or maybe they just hit the wrong button. Happens to me all the time. I've added a few things accidentally to my cart when I've been shopping, but that's a story for another time. Jen, any key takeaways from you?
I think one of my favorite things from this session was the fabulous search capabilities that they're leveraging and how they're using those search capabilities and then they're screen sharing what they find with their hiring managers. So everybody is literally on the same page. They can see all of the data that they're getting from AI. That was exciting to hear.
Yeah, one thing that I did want to call out is she mentioned Boolean search.
Yeah.
And that is the least favorite part of my recruiting background. I hated Boolean searches, but I can imagine a group of recruiters and a recruitment team together saying, hey, this one worked, this one hasn't, let's try this, rather than you being an individual and constantly trying to hit the game-winning shot, coming up with the magic search, right?
Sure.
But that is... Crystal's session. If you missed any of it, feel free to go back, catch the replay. If you're watching us live on LinkedIn or YouTube, you can still register for IAMHR. It's at the Phenom website at the top with a banner. Just click it, fill out your information, and you can access these whenever you would like. But we're not done yet for today. Jen, what is our next session?
Yeah. So next up, we've got Sarah Keaty from Resource Solutions, and she's going to be talking all about how recruiters and hiring managers can improve their communication, not only between each other, but also with candidates to see how they can work together to really get that best fit for a position. It's definitely a team effort and candidates have to be involved. So eager to hear her thoughts on this.
Hello, my name is Sarah Keaty and I'm a Global Director at Resource Solutions based in New York City. So I've been asked today to talk about how do recruiters and hiring managers come together to make sure that they're hiring for the whole person. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that these two individuals collaborate when identifying that a talent or a new individual is needed for the organization. And I kind of want to just take you through some of my learns over the last 10 years. So let's start with recruiter. First things first, have an open dialogue. It is so important that that level of conversation has been had about what are the expectations, what goes on within your organization, whether it be to do with the role, whether it to do with the culture, whether it be, company ethics, whether it to be with company lifestyle, what does balance look like for that organization? All those questions are really important because at the end of the day, your recruiter is your voice out to the market. Whether that be promoting a new product service that you're running, whether that be promoting a new way of operating, it is so important that they have that level of detail to go out and make the sell. Next thing is when you're talking about skills and experience, don't get caught up on years of experience. Don't get caught up on colleges. For me, I have some of the best people that I've interviewed are people that have not necessarily had the most impressive CV, but my one technique that I found really helpful is when I'm sent a CV and I think, oh, this is something quite interesting on here, but the person hasn't done a very good job of selling themselves. I will go back to the recruiter and say, could you just go back to the candidate and ask them for some key achievements that they've done within that space? And it's kind of taken away any of the biases around, okay, they may not have X amount of experience, they may not have all the key buzzwords that I'm looking for, they might have not necessarily gone to a college that I have heard of, all these things that sometimes maybe in our, we do factor in without even knowing it unconsciously. Make sure that you're being open-minded. Take a look at individuals. Go back to the recruiters, work with them to really understand what that individual has achieved. And from a recruitment perspective, just making sure that the recruiters are asking those questions when putting candidates forward to the hiring manager. Next thing is recruiters, be honest with candidates. If you know that the organization is going to take a bit of time to get the process moving or to start review CVs, hiring CVs, what realistic start dates are, etc., make sure that you're managing that expectations, because when people are looking for jobs, not everyone is looking for now. And so sometimes you're ostracizing certain parts of the market of individuals that thinking it has to go quickly, or vice versa. If you go on the approach of this takes a bit of time and actually someone is looking for a change more instantly, then you're able to manage that expectation up front. From a hiring manager side, be open-minded, just like the recruiter. Don't get caught up on keywords, don't get caught up on key colleges. Again, ask probing questions. We all know that our time is valuable when it comes to the interview process, but that is really our opportunity to probe and get into the detail and, ask all those burning questions that we have. But if you're not giving someone the opportunity to even get them to that stage of the interview because there's something on the CV that doesn't quite jump out at you, go back to the recruiter and ask them to ask some more probing questions to the candidate that they may have not necessarily included. Next thing is focus on candidate experience. For them, how does this look and feel for the candidate? Now, when I say candidate experience, I'm not talking about years of experience. I'm talking about what was the application process like? How quickly were their CV screened? How quickly were interviews scheduled? How organized were you as an interviewer conducting the interview? Did you look at the CV and go in and think, these are some really interesting points that I want to pull out? Or, actually, there's a bit of relatability here. I am familiar with X, Y, and Z. Make sure you take that time to prepare. We all know that, these processes are very time sensitive. And so for me, as a hiring manager, I want to make sure that I'm optimizing that time with the candidate to make sure that we're having constructive dialogue, but also throughout that entire process that I'm thinking about the sell. So going back to, familiarities and things that are relatable, make sure that you build a connection with the person and that you're not just looking at going back to the experience and going back to, sector or whatever it may be. Try and find items or traits that allow you to link and make people feel as if they're connecting as one person. The sell is so important. You're selling from both sides. So whether it be the recruiter selling on the initial phase, as the hiring manager, you equally have responsibility of pushing the sell throughout the hiring process. And that really comes to life in the interview. Come on camera. It is a very small thing, but it makes a big difference. Seeing people's body language, communicating with individuals' expressions, even just your surroundings, they'll get a real feel for what the culture of the business is like because they'll see it in real time. As the manager of this role, they can look and feel on what this is going to potentially be like should they join your organization. When you're in that cell, make sure that you are being honest. I go back to the honesty piece because we all know that we're competing on a very candidate-led market right now. And actually, we all know that no job is perfect. And so just being transparent with that person to say, these are some of the challenges that we're having, or the reason the current individual is leaving is because of those things that are things that people want to hear. It gives a level of credibility where the candidate is walking away from that conversation thinking, okay, it wasn't just this really aggressive sell on how amazing the organization is. It's actually real things that I can relate to. And yes, they may be a challenge, but actually that's the challenge that I'm looking to change or come in and really make an impact. Finally, show them how they can make an impact. That for me is the biggest sell, showing that they're part of something much bigger. Whether it be what the team culture is like, or whether it be what you're trying to achieve, whatever it may be, whatever that individual's drivers are, pull out those drivers and then reflect them back to them just so that they can see that actually these are things as an organization you can offer. So in closing, a couple of key takeaways. First one is be clear about the role, what you feel this role is going to bring to the organization. That's both from a recruiter and also from a hiring manager perspective. Just make sure everything is consistent. Next thing is communicate clearly with expectations. Like I said, candidates are there to not only be assessed by yourselves, but for them to assess you. So like I said earlier, if you are slightly a bit slower in the recruitment process and you know that there is a lot of internal hurdles to get through to get to certain next steps of the process, outline that. Candidates will be far more receptive to knowing the truth than to sit there waiting, thinking that actually as an organization, you don't want to proceed. And then finally, on to candidate experience. If someone wants to sit and rate their experience with you as the hiring manager or the recruiter throughout the process, do you think you'll be getting 5 stars? Is there anything you feel like you might have missed a step on? Even the tiniest things from being late for an interview has a real impact. So just make sure that you're being very cognizant of your behaviors and very cognizant of the information that you're feeding out there, because it is a very small world. So they're my key takeaways. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thanks, Sarah. Lots of great tips and tricks for recruiters and hiring managers there. A couple key takeaways that I had specifically were: don't judge a candidate based on their CV or their resume alone. And this is something that I think gets overlooked oftentimes, especially in university recruiting settings and other settings where someone's going to look at a stack of resumes as tall as the eye can see and say, good fit, not a good fit, good fit, not a good fit. But that's not always the case, right? We talk so much, especially yesterday and the day before, about upskilling, about growing your candidates and your employees to the professional that they want to be and you want them to be. So by just judging someone off of what a piece of paper says and not having that conversation and not meeting them face to face sometimes puts you at a disservice. But you do have to be honest throughout the process. And this is an opportunity for hiring managers, I think, where you get somebody towards the second, third, maybe even the final step, and you say, hey, right now, I don't think that this is going to be the right role for you. However, we are interested in keeping this conversation going, right? JD yesterday talked about silver medalists. He talked about bronze medalists. Keeping those open lanes of communication and becoming talent advisors is a really effective way to do things. And the last thing that I want to say, Jen, is she stressed being open-minded.
Sure.
Right? It's tough to do as a recruiter, especially when you're stressed. It's a tight labor market. You have so many open jobs, but sometimes you have to be a little bit creative. If somebody is, looking for 4 years of experience, maybe that is having a conversation with your hiring manager and saying, hey, I know this person doesn't have that level of experience that you're looking for, but they come from the exact background that you're looking for. And based on our conversation, they're ready to hit the ground running. So those were just a few things that Sarah mentioned that I took away. Anything from you, Jen?
Yeah, I think some of the same things that you just mentioned, Devin. The honesty with candidates, being very transparent about the requirements of the role, start dates, things as simple as that. If you're not clear and you're on a different page, it can really affect whether or not you could use the same candidate further down the road, even if this isn't the best, suited position for them. So yeah, I think honesty is definitely a big one, for sure. So next up, we've got Brittany Benz, Director of Customer Success at Phenom. She's going to outline best practices and essential tech to enhance communication and collaboration with managers in this new era of virtual hiring. Can't wait to see what she has to say.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Benz, and I'm one of our directors of customer success here at Phenom. Today, we're going to be talking about the secret to improving collaboration with your hiring managers to help fill roles quickly. I also act as a hiring manager here at Phenom within our customer success department. So you'll be hearing some real-time stories of what we're doing here at Phenom when it comes to hiring. So I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Wrigley Gum. They're the ones that make Double Mint and Juicy Fruit. Well, Mr. William Wrigley Jr. didn't always sell gum. He actually started his career selling soap and baking soda. And as an incentive to buy, he would offer his customers chewing gum with their purchases. What he actually found was the gum was more popular than these items that he was actually selling. What this made me think of is this made me think of Phenom back in 2019. So back in 2019, when I first took an interview with Phenom people, I remember trying to coordinate my in-person interviews. I was currently located in Connecticut at the time, and Phenom is based out of the Philadelphia area. It took over a month for us to actually solidify a date where I could make it on site, as well as have my entire interview panel available. When they actually came on board to Phenom and started working as a hiring manager, I remember having this same experience with the people that I was interviewing. What we used to do is we used to bring folks on site for about 2 hours. We had 4 30-minute interviews that would take place in person. After each session, our interviewers would walk out of the room and they would actually walk over to either the next person's desk to let them know that they were ready to kind of step in and take over. And what we were doing when that was happening is the information was actually being shared during that exchange. So we were sharing our interview feedback in real time and in person. And then we found it very, very difficult to actually find those interview notes at a later date. Oftentimes we may, share those in person. We may share them via Slack. Sometimes we had Google Docs, and sometimes we were sending them via email. So it was very disorganized, and definitely made it very difficult to find that interview feedback in the future. So now let's go back and revisit that Wrigley story. So, Mr. Wrigley, he realized that this gum was a more successful product. And so he actually began manufacturing his own gum. And today, Wrigley is one of the world's best-selling chewing gums. They're almost like an American icon, if you will, and they gross about billions of dollars in revenue. And I know this may not be a direct comparison. It's not like Phenom has made any crazy business shift in the products that we're offering. But what we did do from a hiring perspective is once COVID-19 hit and, we were all working from home, we started doing all of our interviews virtually. And so what this meant is, we had to pivot in the way that we were conducting our interviews. And I think most of us here, in this session, we've all had to pivot that way as well. So what we've actually found is during the COVID-19 pandemic, 86% of companies were conducting their interviews virtually. And it wasn't always this way, though. Many companies, very similar to Phenom, were also doing in-person interviews. In fact, 59% of hiring managers reported conducting just a traditional in-person interview. So what does this mean for the future of hiring? I think we've all realized that virtual hiring is actually here to stay. If you think back to the example that I gave of, when I was living in Connecticut and it took over a month for me to come on site, the option to have done that interview virtually, I could have done my interview, I could have received an offer letter, and I probably could have started in the time that it took to actually get that interview scheduled. So overall, there's definitely a lot of really awesome benefits, including just that time to fill when it comes to doing virtual interviews. I think it's also just important to note that, I think safety is going to continue to be a concern to our candidates and to our workers as we move forward. So keeping these interviews virtually will also help with the safety concern as well. So with this shift to virtual interviews, how can hiring managers best collaborate with their other interviewers or their recruiters? So what we've done here at Phenom is we've actually started using Phenom's hiring manager portal. And we've seen such an improvement within our collaboration as a team ever since we started using this product. For starters, every interviewer is leaving their notes directly within the hiring manager portal. So we're no longer sharing those interviews via a Slack message, or we're not stopping by someone's desk to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down as we, walk by. It's very easy to find and share all of our interview notes so that I can really see, what conversations did, my colleagues have with this candidate? What conversations did my recruiter have with this candidate? All of those notes are very easy and very simple for me to find. Additionally, I can give feedback to my recruiter in real time on next steps. So no longer does she need to memorize what the interview process looks like. I can send her a simple note within the portal and just say, hey, at recruiter, please move forward with an offer with this candidate, for example. So all of that, outlining of next steps is done directly within this portal. Additionally, we are also using our video assessments as well as our interview scheduling tool. So all of those details live within this portal as well. So I can easily view any video assessments. I can also check and see when this candidate's next interview might occur or when his or her past interviews occurred as well. So all of those details live right here. So I only have this one true place to check before and after an interview. The other amazing thing about this platform is I can share exactly what I'm looking for with my recruiter within this portal. So with my recruiter, I no longer have to do these intake meetings. I think we're all kind of, Zoomed or meeting out at this point. So I no longer have to do those intake meetings. Instead, what I can do is I can share exactly what my ideal candidate looks like and what skills are necessary to be successful in this role directly within the portal so that she knows the exact candidate that I'm looking for. If for whatever reason, maybe the people that she's sending me just are not hitting the mark, what I can do is I can actually go into this portal and source my own candidates. So within the hiring manager portal, I can see any lead or any applicant as it relates to this specific rec that I'm the hiring manager on. And if I find someone that I think is a good fit, I can just send a quick note within the portal to my recruiter and ask that she set up an initial phone screen. So, what are the true secrets to improving collaboration? Well, what I've found as a hiring manager and what I think has really worked well with our, hiring manager and recruiter relationship, number one is just sharing interview feedback in a timely manner. I know our recruiters are moving at the speed of light, and I know as a hiring manager, I wanted someone in a seat yesterday. So it's very important to share that interview feedback as soon as you have it. Second, I would say showcase those necessary skills for the role. And if you have an ideal candidate and you know someone who is really great at their job, share that with your hiring manager or with your recruiter. Let them know, who is the perfect person for this rec. And the last option here, just outlining that interview process and next steps. So whether that's through an intake meeting that you're having, maybe you just send it via email. Again, it's very important that your recruiter knows what this process looks like and knows when to engage and when to move forward. So to conclude, I just want to say, it's okay to pivot. We've all kind of gone through these crazy changes recently, and it can be scary. But in the example of us here, what we've seen is that it does lead to long-term successes. And I do just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm also including my LinkedIn URL here as well. Please feel free to connect with me. And thank you very much for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you all soon.
Thanks, Brittany. One story that you didn't share about Mr. William Wrigley is that the reason why he transitioned from soap to chewing gum is because it is the perfect chaser after getting your mouth washed out with soap for cursing as a youth. That is not a story that I know from experience, Jen, but it is a true story that I completely just made up. In a serious note, Brittany, that was a fantastic session. I really enjoyed it. One thing that stood out to me was the safety aspect of this new technology that we've kind of been thrust into. And the reason for that being is ever since March of 2020, everyone's been like, things will go back to normal. Everything will go back to normal. Well, here we are coming up on the tail end of 2021 and things aren't quite back to normal. So while we're looking towards the future, really the safety of your not only staff, but potentially future candidates is going to be important. And if you are forcing everyone to come into the office or come in for interviews, you may turn some candidates off. And having the ability to go digital and stay digital for the long term is going to open up your pool of candidates to a much wider array of people that could be great fits for your organization. What did you take away from it, Jen?
Sure. I think that's a great point. One of the things that really resonated with me is how important it is to share interview feedback almost in real time, Devin, because it's very easy to lose track of your notes, what you're thinking about a candidate. And if you do that automatically versus waiting a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it's hard to keep everything straight. So I really resonated with that. It's something that I think is super valuable.
100%. I mean, when we think about the world today, Jen, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night.
Me neither.
Right? Every day feels like a whirlwind. And that's not just because we're doing this virtual event. It's every day in general. And with schedules going crazy, and yes, AI and automation can help balance that. You're still in meetings back to back to back. So getting down that information as fast as you can is going to be important. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I still carry around a handwritten notebook and why I write everything in Sharpie is so that it's permanent. I can find it later.
Me too.
But Jen, what do we have next up for our next session?
So I'm really excited about our final session of IAMHR. This is with Jen Bombardier from Radian Group. She spoke last year and provided an amazing session. And she's going to be exploring why it's so important for recruiters to turn into talent advisors in this this new hiring era that we're in. And she's going to talk all about the tools that recruiters need to do this, including AI discovery, fit score, dynamic talent pools, and pipelines, and more. So super excited to hear Jen's insights on this topic and can't wait to hear it.
Hi, my name is Jen Bombardier. I'm the Vice President of People Operations at Radiant Group. I'm excited to join you all virtually today as part of Phenom People's IAMHR event. Today, I'm going to talk about the evolution recruiters are making to become talent advisors and influencers. The focus of this session will be on why you should be a talent advisor, how do you evolve to become that talent advisor, leveraging tech tools of influence to help position you as an advisor, as well as sharing some of the benefits to your hiring managers. Let's get started. Why should we as recruiters focus on becoming talent advisors? First, the job market is evolving. Companies and their job needs are changing too. With the impact of the COVID pandemic over the last 18 months, hiring has changed. There's been ups and downs depending upon industry. Talent needs have shifted. People's skills have been repurposed, and they've learned to do new things with the skills they previously had. According to Monster's Future of Work report in January of 2021, 82% of recruiters plan to hire this year. We could see this impact of the first 3 months of 2021 in the Bureau of Labor Statistic reports showing continued job growth. 800,000 jobs were filled in March alone, and that hiring has continued. The second thing that is driving the need for recruiters to evolve into influencers and advisors is the supply and demand of the job market. This past spring, we saw news headlines reflecting worst worker shortage ever. Employers were offering heavy incentives for new hires to join their organization, as well as hefty retention bonuses to get current employees to stay. By this summer, according to a Monster poll in June, we saw 66% of workers recognizing that there were available job opportunities. We continued to see the upward momentum in the job market as reflected on the continued BLS job data reports. According to Achiever's fourth annual Employee Engagement and Retention Report, 95% of workers were considering quitting their job to find a new one. 75% of executives agreed that digital transformation is more urgent given the pandemic, shifting the types of jobs companies were hiring for. In that same study, Boston Consulting Group also found that 10 times more positions related to mathematics, computers, and other tech would go unfilled due to the limited supply of skill sets in the market. In this environment, companies need to attract and retain talent, keep up with the ever accelerating pace of change, and meet customers' needs. So we need to be positioned to help them. Another reason we need to position ourselves as talent advisors is that candidate and hiring manager expectations have significantly changed over the years. Even pre-COVID, we saw the shift in candidate expectations for personalization and high-touch experiences. With the continued demand on hiring managers to produce business results, we need to use a talent acquisition mindset that focuses on how to impact and drive business results, not just focus on recruiting talent. A survey conducted by Gartner showed that only 25% of hiring managers currently say that recruiters influence their hiring decisions, and only 35% are satisfied with recruiting's impact on their business results. Hiring managers want quality talent that will support both current and future needs, and they want it quickly. By being a talent advisor, you will stay relevant and impactful to the business. You can focus on driving business results through decreased time to fills, increased quality of candidates, and the impact of talent that can pivot to future organizational needs. Talent advisors ensure they are capturing the attention of the right talent while showing hiring managers how they can improve business outcomes through their hiring decisions. So now that you understand why it's important to evolve, how do you go about doing it? Start with becoming an expert. Know the market, your industry, and your competition. Data and facts should be at your fingertips. Do your research. There's a lot of information out there. Use it to your advantage. Join industry newsletters. Follow industry influencers on social media. Use readily available data from the government through the Bureau of Labor Statistic reports. Be curious and inquisitive. Make connections and network. Listen to all the spheres of influence around you. Next, develop a solid business acumen. Understand the business and the strategic goals and initiatives. How do these goals influence the needed talent in the organization? How does the talent you're looking for align to these goals? Are they going to be able to drive the right results? Complete a thorough and detailed talent acquisition consultation call with your hiring manager in the business. Understand the critical success factors to the role and how they're looking for this role to drive results. Build your relationship in your results. Showing a hiring manager what you can do through actual delivery of quality results will strengthen the trust and respect in the relationship and transition to where you will be sought out as an expert. Once you've developed your business acumen, start to use your power of persuasion. Consult and influence hiring managers. Offer them insights and information. Share the why. Help them understand what's happening. Be comfortable with challenging the norm. It's okay to give hiring managers a new or different perspective. Show them how a candidate can fit their needs in an untraditional way or through transferable skills. Get the attention of your hiring managers with data and facts. By using this information to support your recommendations, it will tell the story for them. Through the power of persuasion, you'll want to garner the hiring manager's time and attention to optimize the process of finding the right talent. Reinforce the importance of them being active and engaged in the process. And then be sure to use technology to help your process. Let's talk about some of the tech tools of influence. Artificial intelligence. It's out there in so many spaces, including recruitment. Use AI to timely raise quality candidates to the hiring manager. Continue to refine the AI with information based on hiring managers' needs and feedback on candidates so you can continue to raise and showcase the right talent for the role. Be open-minded to candidates raised through AI. What are the transferable skills? How do they fit? Use technology to show candidate fit scores. If you start with a strong job description that outlines what is really needed to be successful in the role in the company, the technology will raise candidates matched to the score. This will help you in your time to review candidates by allowing you to start with the strongest match candidates and vetting them and getting those best aligned in front of hiring managers. Also use technology to plan for both current and future needs through dynamic talent pipelines. With strong keywords and match criteria, you can continually have candidates in your sights. Also, when we talk about being an advisor and influencer, use technology to share robust data and analytics. Use it to tell the story and influence the process and the hiring manager. Understand where your talent's coming from. What does the talent flow look like? Use the data to understand passive candidate behavior and personalize the approach. And use the data and analytics to understand what roadblocks there are to a successful hire and work to minimize or eliminate those barriers. So before I wrap up the session, let's talk about the benefits to hiring managers and your organization as you evolve into a talent advisor. First, you can better understand talent strategies. Part of your role is to help managers understand how to effectively move internal talent to have the right talent in the right role at the right time. Part of your role is also helping them to understand how they can retain their talent longer. Second, having a talent advisor provides additional or increased diversity of talent. You're no longer looking at talent through one or a couple lenses. Your approach to talent becomes a wider breadth as you expand your expertise and your business acumen, opening new channels and networks for talent connection. Additionally, with a trusted partner delivering quality talent, managers will have to focus less time on recruiting and hiring and be able to spend more time on developing, growing, and retaining their top talent. I appreciate you spending time with me today. Remember, being a talent advisor won't come overnight. It takes time to learn the business and build trust, and where you can, use tools to help you propel your journey forward. In the words of Dwayne Johnson, success isn't overnight. In every day, you get a little better than before. It adds up. Thank you for joining me. Please don't hesitate to reach out if I can answer any questions or share any insights.
Thanks, Jen. That was an awesome session. I especially loved the shout out from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the end. Big fan of young Rock over here. I hope he does run for president someday. So if you haven't seen the show, definitely check it out, but no free ads. Jen, I loved the sentiment about talent advisors and being talent advisors, and not in the sense that we typically hear.
Right.
What we typically hear is that recruiters need to advise candidates on what roles they would be best fit for, on what skills they should potentially improve upon, tips and tricks within the interview process, not recruiters being advisors towards hiring managers.
Sure.
Because they're not having the conversations day to day. They're not out there talking to candidates, finding out what the market looks like, what compensation expectations are right now. They're not networking with candidates and other individuals on a regular basis. And that's so important, because at the end of the day, as a recruiter, you are the expert. You are on the front lines having conversations, understanding where you may be losing out on opportunities, or
Yep.
what the position requires that is a little bit more of a nice to have as opposed to a need to have. So having those open lanes of communication are key. Jen, what did you take away from Jen's session?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the fact that only 25%, was it, of recruiters actually, or hiring managers, say that recruiters influence their hiring decisions. That really stuck with me. It's very surprising, especially with the tools that are available today. Just those insights that they have. I think recruiters can bring much more to the table, and hiring managers should take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, throughout the interview process, the candidate is going to have the most interaction with the recruiter at the end of the day. For the scheduling, for the Zoom links, hiring managers are probably going to only get 15 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
experience really from start to finish comes through the recruiter.
Yeah, so they are going to have the best insight. And it's great to be an advisor in that sense. Anything else that you'd like to add, Jen?
I just thought that it was a fabulous session, and it's something that I think is the future. I think recruiting can go a long way in this more talent advisory role, and helping hiring managers better understand the candidates that are there and what they're looking for and why, and trying to leverage things like analytics and AI. I do think it's the future for recruiting and for the manager experience.
Absolutely. We've talked a tremendous amount over the past 4 days about designing for experience, about the evolution of talent, or as JD called it, the revolution, which I think is starting to fit, because we're starting to see major changes throughout technology. AI is no longer just a buzzword, it's a requirement.
For sure.
We tackled all of that over the past 4 days. If you missed any of it, definitely check out some of the sessions on demand. Day 1 was all focused around the candidate experience. Day 2, employees. Day 3, a heavy prescription of RX and recruiter experience. And of course, we just covered manager experience today. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you can still register to access any of that information online. If you're a customer just joining us today, you can also catch the roundtables that we have. So if you haven't registered, you can always do that as well. Jen, it's now time for my favorite part, right? We're wrapping up. We're popping champagne. It's been a successful event.
Where is it?
But before we go, we couldn't do this with so many people, not only here at Phenom, but also externally that were able to help us out. So I wanted to give a special thank you to Tim Roos of Johnsonville, Ashley Blackmore of Newell Brands, Shalia Gray of Quadient, Ben Eubanks, our favorite analyst. I love having him on TXL. Can't wait to have that again. Kelly Tansey, Tyler Haygood of Southwest, talking all about Southwest swag. That is definitely one of my favorite sessions.
Their referrals, amazing.
Southwest is doing some great things. Referrals fly free is what they're saying now.
Is that it?
I'm kidding. Amy Ritter talking all about how Thermo Fisher Scientific is leveraging scheduling. Derek Murphy Johnson of Kinder Care Education, almost forgot it there, talking about how important it is to really ramp up events, even though we may be in a virtual state. And of course, today we heard from Crystal, Sarah, as well as Jen in that last session just wrapped up. I also want to shout out to all of the Phenoms that joined.
For sure.
Jen wrangled a lot of our speakers, so I know a lot went into that. Special shout out to Justin Devitt behind everything, pulling the ones and twos. If you are interested in anything that we covered over the past 4 days, don't be a stranger. Visit Phenom's website, request a demo. That's how we continue to innovate, is getting feedback from you all out in the workforce. You are our advisor, so definitely request a demo. Tell us what you'd like to see in the future, and we will work on that for you. Thank you, everyone. I can't wait to do it again next year. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Thanks.